Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Around 20 people were arrested in Costa Mesa, California, after demonstrators took to the streets to protest a Donald Trump rally Thursday night. Protesters blocked traffic, including the on-ramp to the freeway. The demonstrations involved both clashes between Trump supporters and protesters and clashes between protesters and the police clad in riot gear. Several thousand people attended the Trump rally. The California primary is June 7th. Former House Speaker John Boehner launched a verbal attack against Republican presidential candidate Ted Cruz, calling him, quote, Lucifer in the flesh and a, quote, miserable son of a Boehner was speaking during a forum at Stanford University. The comments were recorded by journalists from the campus paper, the Stanford Daily. This is John Boehner responding to Stanford history professor David Kennedy, asking what he thinks about Ted Cruz.
Lucifer in the flesh. In Washington, I have as many Democrat friends as I have Republican friends. I get along with almost everybody. But I have never worked with a more miserable son of
Meanwhile, pro-choice groups are calling on Ted Cruz to fire anti-choice activist Troy Newman from his campaign. Newman's the head of the militant anti-abortion group Operation Rescue, which is known for its targeted harassment of abortion clinic workers. Newman himself has implied abortion providers should be executed, writing the U.S. is, quote, blood guilty for its failure to kill, quote, abortionists. Newman currently serves as one of the co-chairs of Ted Cruz's Pro-Lifers for Cruz coalition. The U.S. State Department has condemned Wednesday's airstrike on a Doctors Without Borders-supported hospital in Syria. The organization says the airstrike killed at least 50 people, including doctors, nurses, and patients. On Thursday, State Department spokesman John Kirby said the airstrike was likely carried out by the Syrian regime.
We're obviously find this attack reprehensible in every possible way. We're looking at dozens, if not several dozens, of casualties in this strike on what was clear that was a medical facility. The details and the circumstances of the attack are still coming in, but it sure bears all the hallmarks of the kinds of strikes that the regime has done in the past on treatment facilities and, frankly, on first responders.
This comes as the Pentagon is slated to release a full report today on its internal investigation into the U.S. military's bombing of the Doctors Without Borders hospital in Kunduz, Afghanistan, last year. The attack killed 42 people, including patients and staff. The Pentagon says 16 U.S. military members have received some form of administrative discipline, but no one's been court-martialed. In response, Amnesty International called for an independent investigation, writing, quote, these reports demonstrate the need for an independent investigation outside the chain of command to determine what happened in Kunduz and to assess potential criminal wrongdoing. In California, the brother of one of the suspected shooters in the San Bernardino massacre was arrested Thursday, along with his wife and sister-in-law, on charges unrelated to the December shooting, which killed 14 people. Prosecutors say Syed Raheel Farouk, Tatiana Farouk, and Mariah Chernik have been charged with conspiring to make a false statement to immigration officials while under oath. Vice President Joe Biden made a surprise visit to Iraq Thursday, where he met with the Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi and other top officials. It was Biden's first visit to Iraq since 2011. This comes as the Prime Minister continues to face massive popular protests against his administration. Earlier this week, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in Baghdad to demand the appointment of new officials to parliament. The Obama administration's proposed an unprecedented military aid package to Israel that could top $40 billion over 10 years. It's the largest military aid package the U.S. has ever offered to any nation. Israeli officials are reportedly demanding even more funding. The U.S. currently gives Israel $3 billion a year in military funding under a deal slated to expire in 2018. Meanwhile, Israeli police shot and killed a Palestinian woman and her teenage brother near a checkpoint in the Israeli-occupied West Bank Wednesday. Israeli police say the two were armed with knives. Palestinian authorities said the victims, 23-year-old Maran Abu Ismail and 16-year-old brother Ibrahim Taha, were en route to Jerusalem for a doctor's appointment. Amnesty International says police in Brazil have killed at least 11 people this month in Rio de Janeiro, where the Olympic Games are set to begin in less than 100 days. Amnesty says the majority of the victims are young black men from the city's poorer neighborhoods known as favelas. 307 people were killed by Rio police in 2015, which accounted for 1 in every 5 homicides in the city. Atlantic City could become the first New Jersey city to go into default since the Great Depression if it misses a $1.8 million bond payment due Sunday. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has proposed taking over the city's operations, a move which would give the state power to sell off city assets and break union contracts. Atlantic City Mayor Don Guardian has pushed back against the state plan, calling it a, quote, fascist dictatorship. The Verizon workers' strike has entered its second week with tens of thousands of workers on strike up and down the East Coast. It's one of the largest U.S. strikes in years. Verizon sought to cut pensions and ease the outsourcing of work. At a picket line in Brooklyn Wednesday, Al Pemberton, chief steward of Communication Workers of America Local 1109, spoke out.
My name is Al Pemberton, and I'm a field technician out of Verizon Wireline. We're fighting for middle-class jobs. Most of us are going to be retiring in a few years, but we want to make sure that the communities that we serve have good middle-class jobs to pass on to the young people coming up. And we think that should be a positive thing for the community and for the government as a whole, because you got good-paying jobs, you pay taxes, and then more services can be rendered to the community through that process.
In Washington, D.C., Geneva Reed Veal, the mother of Sandra Bland, spoke at the newly formed Congressional Caucus on Black Women and Girls First Symposium about the death of her daughter, who was found hanged in a Texas jail cell July 2015, 3 days after she was arrested over an alleged traffic violation. Reed Veal maintains her daughter did not commit suicide. During her testimony at the Library of Congress on Thursday, Reed Veal highlighted the high number of women who die in U.S. jails.
Show of hands, can anybody in the room tell me the other 6 women who died in jail July 2015 along with Sandra Bland? That is a problem. You all are among the walking dead. And I am so glad that I have come out from among you.
And Yale University has announced it will not rename the residential dorm Calhoun College, named after former Vice President John C. Calhoun, one of the most prominent pro-slavery figures in history. This comes despite a recent wave of student protests demanding the dorm name be changed. Yale also announced it will name one of the 2 new residential dorms after African-American alumnus and legal scholar Anna Pauline Murray. It'll be the first time a Yale dorm bears the name of either an African-American or a woman. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.